All right, guys, we're back. We're back. It's Sunday again. Welcome to the live hour, you guys. Welcome to the live hour. How's your week? As you guys get in, just give me a hello. Give me a hello in the comments. I want to know who's watching today. We're back again. It's Sunday. It's Sunday. And this week, it's been a crazy week, guys. It's been a crazy week. Of course, we had the reaction to the Canada China trade deal, which has been kind of mixed. It's been interesting the reaction of some of my conservative friends to this deal with China. I've seen a lot of comments this week saying Canada is going communist because of this deal. We can talk about that a bit more today. Um, there are people still amongst my as I said, the reaction on on the side of my conservative friends, I think, has been the more interesting bit to kind of understand this week, because I made a video about it, and I got a lot of comments from some of my conservative friends. I hope they're my conservative friends and not bots from the United States or somewhere with a competing interest. um he says, as he just drops that comment there and walks away. Anyways, um, so we had some of those reactions today. Some people are saying, well, Canada should recognize that we're still dependent on the United States. We're not properly decoupled from the United States, and so we should not go about trying to do things that may annoy them. Well, speaking of annoying the United States, Marconi went to the World Economic Forum this week. So, started off, signed the deal with China, whatever that reaction, or I mean, you kind of knew what the reaction was going to be there. And obviously, you guys know my opinion on this. I think that was the deal to sign. I think you sign a deal with China right now, and this deal, in my opinion, is controlled enough that it shouldn't be getting some of the reaction that it's getting on the right in Canada, but it is. And Makani went to the World Economic Forum, had a speech, spoke about American hegemony, spoke about these superpowers using their powers for coercion against middle powers, and it called for middle powers to unite and come together and chart their own course in the world. Okay, this created, obviously, as you'd expect, Donald Trump came out with a reaction saying Canada exists, lives because of the United States. And then we got the speech the other day from McCartney when he returned from his trip, and he said Canada does not live because of the United States. I'm just paraphrasing there. Canada lives because of all this history that has gone before us, all this, um, all the decisions that Canada made brought us to this point. Canada does not live because of the United States. Wow. And I think that was, for me, I think that was a powerful response. But again, as I said, the reaction on from some of my friends on the right has been rather interesting on this. Most people, not most, but some of the people that I've seen online have been saying, well, he continues to poke the bear. He continues to annoy Donald Trump. Um, I didn't see it that way. But that's just what you get. Who's watching today? You guys get in the comments. Let me know who's watching, and then we can get into some discussions today. I'm just setting the table here. I'm setting the table here. And after the events of this week, Donald Trump is now threatening 100% tariffs on all Canadian imports. He's threatening 100% tariffs on Canadian imports into the United States. Okay. And a lot of my conservative friends are saying, well, we told you so. We told you Trump was going to react this way. Why did you go make a deal with China? Why did you go call out American hegemony? Why did you even get involved in the Greenland discussion? Okay, we'll talk about that today. I want to know your thoughts on this. I want to know your thoughts on this. Did Canada fuck around and find out? Did was McCartney right to make the decisions he made this week in signing the deal in signing the deal with China, in calling out American hegemony? Oh, welcome to the show, Maple Boy. Welcome to the show. Maple Boy says Trump felt Trump felt threatened. That's why he put tariffs. Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. I agree with that, Maple Boy. That and I do think that Trump is probably a person that is seeing his influence, maybe not influence, but he's seeing that the capacity of the world to endure some of the bullshit is kind of waning a little bit. Because I mean, you have to imagine where we were at the beginning of the Trump administration. Hey, Fox Club, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, Fox Club. Fox Club comes in and says hello, everyone. So, how do you guys feel about this? Canada signed a deal with China. McCartney made a speech at the World Economic Forum, and Mapleboy says Trump is losing leverage. Yes, I think he is. I think he is. I think he is. Anyways, Canada signed a deal with China. McCartney made a speech at the World Economic Forum calling out American hegemony, and refuting the claim that Canada lives because of the United States. And Donald Trump has responded by saying, well, especially regarding the China deal, after he said, if Canada can get a deal with China, Canada should get a deal with China. After he said basically that he had no problem with the deal, he has now, maybe Stephen Miller has gotten in his ear, or whoever the person that speaks in his ear is. Maybe he's just coming to an understanding of this deal with China. He comes out yesterday saying he will put 100% tariff uh, on Canadian imports. Okay. Maple Boy says Pierre will make noise tomorrow. Probably. Oh yeah, that's the other thing, right? That's the other subplot going on here. Tomorrow is the first sitting, or well, in the new session of Parliament. It starts tomorrow. They all return to Parliament. So expect some fireworks tomorrow. I will predict what I expect Pierre Polyev to say. Pierre Polyev will try and say there's no results. Where are the results? This was Pierre Poilievre's response to McCartney's speech at the World Economic Forum. He said, "Yes, good talk, but where are the results?" But I think for once, Pierre Polyev is actually talking in during a speech. He's actually saying that the very first time when McCartney actually has results to show, because the deal with China, as I said, as you guys know, is my opinion, is great for Canada. It is great for Saskatchewan. It is great for Manitoba, and it's getting better for Manitoba because I mean, once they secure maybe a deal on pork as well, that would be like these are some of the things that I don't think a lot of people recognize as a big industry for Canada in Canada's trade with China. We're talking about pork, canola, and agri-food, and some of those things there that we trade with China on. Fox Club says, does Trump realize he has pushed too hard? I don't think he. I don't think people on that side realize they are trying, and maybe this is a good place for us to begin. Here's what Donald Trump said as he imposed the tariff, or as he said he would impose. Now we know that Trump is very capable of doing the taco, right? We know this is Trump always chickens out. That is what they say, right? So 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 I mean, in theory, he says he's putting 100% tariffs on Canada if a deal is signed, which is kind of silly because the deal has been signed, and he knew that, or surely he knows that. I'm not really sure what he means by if a deal is signed, and I'll show you later what McCartney said regarding this whole if Canada signs a deal with this whole idea of a free trade agreement with China. I'll show you. I, Maple Boy says there are some results from the canola tariff, and says Trump is a tackle. Let me show you what Donald Trump said. Donald Trump says, and this will be a good launch pad for our discussion. He said the last thing the world needs is to have China take over Canada. It is not going to happen or even come close to happening. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Okay. See, this is one of those kind of silly things. It's like there's no taking over Canada here. Canada has, I mean, the United States has made a deal with. Here's why this is so. How do I say? Here's why this is so hypocritical from the president of the United States. Last November, I want to say, the United States signed a deal to protect their agricultural industry. But they signed a deal with China in November, I want to say. In November, the United States signed a deal to protect their, I think it was soybean, uh, with China. And now Canada has made a similar deal to protect its agricultural industry. And suddenly it's a problem. It means China is taking over Canada. If it did not mean that China was taking over the United States, why should it mean that China is taking over Canada? Now, I understand from the perspective of some of my friends here who think that, well, Canada should be careful, and we don't want China getting too bold in terms of our and trying to interfere with our domestic policy. Yes, it is our responsibility as a country to ensure that the citizens of this country are not getting intimidated by a foreign country, that we're not getting infiltrated by a foreign country, right? That is our responsibility. That is why I actually found it very interesting. One of the things Doug Ford said, and that's somebody that I think has taken a lot of L's this week. Doug Ford had a shit week. Doug Ford took so many L's this week. Somebody save that man. I just need. I know Fox Club. I know you're from Ontario, but please, you guys need to get this guy. He Doug Ford is the kind of guy that it just favors endless moral victories, endless optics over actual like sensible, like reasonable things. He is that kind of guy. He plays the politics 24/7. I feel like fine. He is a politician, but I find it very very off putting. It irritates me. This week particularly irritated me. When he was doing it in terms of like confronting the United States, I was okay with that. But this week, I felt like Doug Ford just dropped to a new low. Dropped to such a low this week. So I mean, this whole Fox Love says, does the USA have leverage because of security agreements like the Five Eyes and other programs? Yes, the United States continues to have leverage on Canada. The United States, you can argue, is in a better position to to have a controlled relationship with China. Fair enough. But at the same time, I don't think the United States gets to say, oh, you can't make a deal with China because, well, the hypocrisy, right? They made the deal with China. They don't avoid trading with China for whatever their quarrels with China is. They still have deals. They still have a deal with China. They still routinely trade with China. Is their second or third largest trading partner for the United States. And for you to then say Canada cannot have 10% of its trade with China is just silly. So this whole statement about China taking over Canada is just, I think it's meant to just court more. It is just meant to court a bit of chaos. Here's what I think Trump is thinking here in my mind. I think this is about protecting the Canadian market. They want to be able to sell their cars. So Trump wants to eat his cake and have it. That is my opinion on this. I think that Trump wants to get all this production back to the states, like he said like he said he wants, and he wants to still be able to sell cars to the Canadian market, and that will shrink obviously if more Chinese EVs are making it into this country, because yes, although you say, oh, Canada is only allowing 49,000 cars a year, Well, people don't buy cars every year, right? Before you, and if these cars turn out to be popular, that could represent a big shrink eventually in the Canadian in the Canadian market for these American car companies. Because as you know, Canada does not necessarily have a like local companies making cars for for the market here. Uh, okay, so Foxcroft says we don't want him. He is the only person who wants to do the job, so we let Ford do his thing. Well, let's talk about the Ford for a moment here. Maple Boy says Fox News uh is now a valuable news station. I'm not really sure what you're saying there, Maple Boy. So and we'll come back to media very soon, Maple Boy. There's something I want to point out to people that I don't think a lot of people understand or recognize yet with Canadian media. So Foxtel says they don't want Doug Ford. Let me talk about some of the L's that Doug Ford has taken this week. So I'm sure by now, if some of you, if you watch the news as much as I do, this is not even news. This was on social media. You will remember. Actually, let me see if I can show you this. Let's do that instead. Let me see if I can show you this. So okay, um, yeah, I should be able to show you that. You're gonna see me double for a sec, but don't worry about it. You'll see what I'm trying to show in a sec. Okay, so I want you guys to tell me. Make sure you can hear this.
So this is what I think about Crown Royal.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Don't waste that. That's the good stuff. That's Canadian whiskey, supporting good paying Canadian jobs right here in Gimli, Manitoba. So what do you say, Premier Ford? I think it tastes better when we work together as part of Team Canada.
We have commitments under
Me? Somebody get in the comments. I hope I haven't fought, haven't messed up the controls here. Can you guys hear me? You guys still hear me? Somebody tell me. Anyways, um, here we see that we see Wab Canoe of Manitoba, the premier of Manitoba, basically reacting to that video that has now gone pretty viral everywhere of showing that showing Doug Ford pouring out some Crown Royal and asking people to boycott Crown Royal and all of that stuff, right? Okay, and this was Doug Ford's response because, well, Crown Royal closed this particular plant in Ontario. Well, here's what Doug Ford did not consider. Doug Ford did not consider that Crown Royal still has some production in Manitoba. Doug Ford did not consider this when he made his statement about people staying away from Crown Royal because they moved from Ontario. Now, this is a guy that likes to claim to be like some Captain Canada that likes to say like the premiers around the table should work together to fight back against the United States. Here he is not considering that Manitoba still benefits from Crown Royal production. He's asking people to boycott Crown Royal. There's another similar thing that happened. Saskatchewan benefits from this deal with China on EVs, right? They get to sell their canola to China. That was the big win for Canadian agri-food that came from this particular deal with China. Now, instead, Doug Ford claims to understand that this is a net benefit for Saskatchewan. But still, this week he proceeded to say, well, people should boycott these Chinese EVs coming into Canada. That's not very Team Canada. You know what I mean? That's not very Team Canada from Doug Ford. To say that, oh, the three he's not willing to give up 3% of the market for a market that probably, if Donald Trump has anything to do with it, for a market that will for this industry is basically he's not willing to give up 3% of the market to these Chinese EVs coming into Canada, affordable EVs that will be cheap for Canadians. He's not willing to give that up, and yet he claims to be Captain Canada. A little bit hypocritical, you know. Anyways, I feel like Doug Ford, as I said, had a shit week. He had a shit week. You guys can still hear me, right? I don't know. You guys went quiet on me all of a sudden. Anyways, so yeah, let me go through the other thing that Donald Trump said in when he in imposing these 100% tariffs on Canadian exports to the United States or American imports. He says if Governor Carney, so he returns to the old taunt that now is pretty tired for people. I don't think people it has the same effect as it did under Justin Trudeau. I think McCartney has done a good job blunting that. It just makes him look childish now. Anyways, he says if Governor Carney thinks he is going to make Canada a drop-off port for China to send goods and products into the United States, he is sorely mistaken. China will eat Canada alive, completely devour it, including the destruction of their businesses, social fabric, and general way of life. If Canada makes a deal with China, it will immediately be hit with a 100% tariff against all Canadian goods and products coming into the United States. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I don't think that Donald Trump realizes that these tariffs are a tax on the American people still. I don't think the man recognizes that. But that said, he's saying that he's saying here that Canada, he doesn't, and this is where I think a lot of people, if they don't pay attention. Oh yeah, so Foxcroft says, what happens if Canada loses the automotive industry? He says, is that what Trump wants? I think. Do you mean is that not what Trump wants, Foxcroft? I think that's what you mean, but I don't want to jump to conclusions there. Donald Trump has stated that his goal is to repatriate as much of the automotive industry out of Canada as possible, right? That shoot back to the United States, back to Michigan, as much as possible. Okay, so honestly, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure why he's complaining. If Doug Ford is right in saying that this Chinese EV is coming to Canada, which I don't think he is, but if he is, surely that is in lockstep with Donald Trump's stated goal of taking as much production as possible away from Canada. Don't you think? Anyways, the other thing he said here that comes off as a bit ignorant, and I think the president probably knows better, but is willfully spreading this information as he does. He said here that what he said here that Canada, he won't accept Canada being a drop-off location for these Chinese vehicles to get sent off into the United States. Well, here's the fact that a lot of people don't know, guys. If Canada imports these electric vehicles, it's not as easy as Americans coming to Canada and buying a $35,000 EV, and they can't import that into the United States, actually. There are rules against that. And I think the president would know that, probably should know that, but is willfully spreading this information here. Even if these cars, I mean, Mexico has had BYD cars on their streets for years now, right? I'm not sure why the president doesn't have a problem. As I said, I think it is about preserving. They want to have their cake and eat it. They want to close down the automotive industry here and still be able to sell cars to Canada. I think this is what Donald Trump's play here is. That is my opinion on this. Because if it was about preventing your neighbor from being spied on. Well, Mexico already has these cars on their streets, right? Anyways, so with regards to the whole statement that that some people feel, oh, he's trying to protect the Americans from these cars from making it into America and becoming and prevent Americans from just buying these cars and that kind of thing. There are rules against that kind of thing. You can't just come into Canada just like buy these BYD cars and then just be able to own them in the United States. It's not just how that works. It's not. Okay? So, that's a little bit more false information being given out here. And as I said earlier, it is ridiculous, this whole claim that China will take over Canada. And actually, I wanna break this down a little bit. One of one of the commenters when I was setting up the live here said that that Mark Carney is at fault for not making a deal with the United States, and this whole 100% tariff is justified. Is a justified response by Donald Trump to continual provocation by Mark Carney. That's what some people have been saying. I feel like right now I feel yes. So Maple Boy says Chinese EVs are better and are lower priced. They are. They are. I mean, maybe not better than the higher end EV American EVs like the Tesla, but certainly they're on par with things like with the conventional everyday models like the the Ford electric vehicles and those kinds of things. Fox Club says Trump doesn't want a deal. I don't think he does. I don't think he does because here's the thing: Donald Trump had a year to come to a deal with Canada on trade. He's had a year, and at every turn he has continued to like he'll look for every single excuse to punt that down the line, right? He canceled the agreement that was in place already, or that was in the works on aluminum and steel because the Ford posted an ad showing Ronald Reagan being against tariffs. Canceled a deal because of that, right? He has continued to stall for a year. And I think in his mind, he expects that Canada is dumb enough to continue to keep its economy on hold for him to decide when he's good and ready to toss us the bone. I think because I don't think people realize that this deal with China has been on the table for a year. Canada could have made this deal last year. Most people, I don't think a lot of people realize this. This deal has been on the table for a year. Canada could have made this deal with China last year. Because it's always been simple. If you drop your tariffs on Chinese EVs, you can get your agricultural products into China. That has always been the deal. The framework of it, in terms of these in terms of the quota and everything, yes, that is new stuff that we're learning. But even I could see that from far away. I said that before he made the deal, that is the only way he makes a deal with China. But we didn't make that deal for a whole year. Presumably, I think that was because McCartney was trying to reach an agreement with the United States first before trying to tackle the China problem. It was not, at this point when he saw that, okay, it looks like this deal is going to be basically a waste of time for the next little while. Let's take what we can on the Chinese side. Imagine we get slapped. Just imagine Carney didn't make this deal. Imagine we get slapped around by the United States for the best part of 2 years, and then we go to China and we're like, yeah, we'd like some favorable terms on the deal. Well, China's going to be like, fuck you. Like, but in making this deal now, we've gotten, I think, the best deal we can out of China. I think it benefits us. It benefits them. But I think we get a lot out of this deal. without necessarily. Canada hasn't really, in my opinion, given up too much at this point to China, in my opinion. Right, 49,000 cars is not a huge quarter by any chance. Anyways, I want to show you after seeing those 100% tariffs that the United States is saying they might put, and as I said, expect a tackle on this. I don't think Donald Trump will follow through on it. He says he will, but I don't think he will, because I just think it will be silly if the whole plan is to prevent Canada from getting close to China. Well, if you put 100% tariffs, and this is the, I think sometimes the weirdness with the Trump administration. Maple Boy says Trump wants to dominate the whole plan. And I'm like, if the whole plan is okay, you want to keep Canada away from China. Well, you're just like this. His delay in reaching a deal with Canada led to Canada having no choice but to sign a deal with China. Putting 100% tariff on Canada is only going to make Canada have to find other markets, have to relate more with China. He is by himself pushing Canada into the arms of China. I don't know why this makes sense. I think if the United States really wants to keep Canada away from China, the move is to give Canada a deal. I think that is the logical thing to do. It is not to try and, it's not to try and like break our economy, because we're not going to sit there and let you kill our economy. I don't know why they don't realize this. We're not going to sit there and let you kill our economy. And it's the same thing with Europe as well. Donald Trump this week said that the allies, the NATO allies, did not contribute that much in Iraq and Afghanistan. Did he need to say that? Did he really? Did Donald Trump really need to say that? Right? Okay, so Foxtop says, I like Poilievre, but I don't think he could get a deal with Trump either. I don't believe Poilievre would have had the balls to do the China deal. Well, I don't know if I would say Poilievre wouldn't have had the balls. I think Poilievre would have been more willing for sure to give up a lot more than McCartney is willing to give. He wouldn't. I don't think that Poilievre would have been as intricate, I would say, as Carney has been in terms of trying to find this sort of like because when you look at it, this China deal is a little bit complex. Maybe that's why it's so difficult for people to understand. Maybe that's why so many people are making false conclusions about this China deal. So I think Poilievre could. I mean, I'm going to give the man the benefit of the doubt, Fox Club. I think Poilievre could make a deal with China, but the problem I think with Poilievre is he like many of my conservative friends are very much the United States first, not even Canada first. Sometimes the way a lot of the people in that camp tend to speak. Sometimes they speak like the United States should be the be all and end all of everything Canada. And that brings me to some of the things that some of these people say. They say, well, the China will own Canada, That's one of the things that because of deals like this, they say China will own Canada, and so that is why they are against a deal with China. Well, here's the funny thing, guys. America kind of owns Canada right now. But it seems like these people are okay with that. Because let me blow your mind a little bit. I said I was going to talk about the media. Well, you see, here's something a lot of people don't know. A lot of our media channels, our media organizations like the National Post, Financial Post, Ottawa Citizen, such media organizations like that are actually owned by they're owned by Post Media, which is basically it has American ownership. And so these companies that control our narrative, our discussions, the way we perceive the world in Canada, are American companies. Let me blow your mind even more. Let me blow your mind even more. The one of our nation building projects, the Silisms project, which is an LNG project in BC, I want to say. I think that one's BC. Well, it turns out that nation building project is actually, I think, is majority owned by Western LNG, which is an American company. And so people say, well, China will own us if we allow them into our market. Well, America kind of owns us, owns a lot of what we think is Canadian. They own a lot of what is Canadian infrastructure. They own our media in some regards. And don't think for one second that the United States is not trying to influence discussions in Canada. People say, well, let me point out something that some of you might have missed this week. Well, okay, so Fox Club said, "Is being Canadian holding us back?" Honest question. What do you mean by that? What part of being Canadian do you feel like is holding us back, Fox Club? Help me understand what you're saying here. Okay, help me understand what you're saying. Maple Boy says Pierre's only experience is as a politician, no other experience compared to Carney. I think that is kind of turning into a bit more. Here's what I'll tell you about that, folks. Look, I think that is that's a little bit like a lot of people saying that Carney, this whole Pierre Poilievre has no other experience apart from being a politician is the liberal equivalent of conservatives saying that McCartney is only trying to benefit Brookfield. I think it's a tired argument. We know that his only experience is as a politician. There are other reasons why I think Poilievre is not suitable for right now. I think there are other reasons that Poilievre himself has shown you to show that he's not the man for this moment. Okay? Yeah, so okay, so Fox Club is explaining here. It says the border and the trade is being Canadian holding us back. Let me think about that, Fox Club, because we is our border. I don't think our having a border with the United States is holding us back. I don't think it is. Now, in this particular iteration of the United States, it is, but once upon a time, having that market, having access to that market was brilliant for us. Now, we over the last 10 years under Justin Trudeau, we have to admit that we haven't been very smart. I will say that we haven't been very smart as a country, but I don't think having a border and having as much trade as we do with the United States is holding us back, in my opinion, folks. Club. I don't think it is, and I think when the dust settles and Libby's, welcome to the show. Libby says this baby Trump is hilarious. Any Canadian that has an issue with Canada making a deal with China needs more education, or is an online bot troll planted by the United States. Whoa, you come in for your first comment and that is what you say. Just trying to light everything up, Libby's. Fox Club says, if we joined the United States, would it benefit us as citizens? I like being Canadian, so I'm going to say no on that, okay? And this is the other thing. A lot of people say that, a lot of people say China is interfering or will interfere in Canada's domestic affairs. Let me tell you something that came out of the United States today. The Trump's Secretary of, I forget which secretary he is, but Scott Bessent said that, he has heard that Alberta wants to build a pipeline and they won't let them do it. And the United States is willing to welcome Alberta into the into the fold. Do you realize how wild that is? That the United States can actively that is most people don't realize that is a shit thing to say, because that has the potential to destabilize Canada, an ally of the United States. It has the potential, just like it's along the same lines as them trying to bribe Greenlanders to become to to allow Denmark to sell Greenland to them, to kind of, again, that destabilizes your ally. It destabilizes your ally. So that's why I think that was, I don't know. I don't think joining the United States, especially the current iteration of the United States, I don't think that is a good deal for Canadians. And I like our healthcare system. I like a lot of a lot of what we have set up in this country. Can we do better as a country? I think we can, but I don't think it benefits us. I don't think it benefits us to join the United States. And I think especially Quebecers will hate being part of the United States because there's not a good history there for French speaking peoples that joined the United States. Okay, Bible Boy says, "Do you Alberta and Quebec? Do you think Alberta and Quebec separating would be a bad thing?" I think that would be a bad thing. I think Quebec brings a certain distinction to this country. They bring a certain know-how to this country. They're in many respects the headquarters for a lot of our technological innovation in this country. I would like to see Quebec stay. Alberta as well is useful for the now. I wish we could. I would like to see us find a solution to the whole getting their resources to market thing. Find a way to, obviously in a sensible way. I don't want to see the government throw money at that. I don't want to see the government build another pipeline that will probably never be profitable. They're struggling to sell the Trans Mountain Pipeline today, but I think we have a lot of complementarity around this country that Quebec and Alberta is. I think Quebec and Alberta are integral to that. Maple Boy says no fucking way. Okay, so Fox Club is saying, I think you're saying, oh, if we join the United States, would it benefit us? Not as Canadian, not as Canadian. Okay, Maple Boy says, a bad idea if we want to deal with ICE agents. Okay, so let's actually talk about ICE. Let's talk about ICE real quick. We're coming towards the end here. So a lot of you have seen by now that ICE has shot another person. They've shot another person dead. This person happened to be an ICU nurse, Alex Preddy. And this person has promptly been labeled as a domestic terrorist who who interfered with the ICE agents while carrying a gun. What do you guys think about this? Get in the comments. I want to see your thoughts. Have you seen the video? Have you seen the video? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? Just a little change of flows for you guys. What do you think about this? Because here's what I saw. I don't know if you saw this as well. This person, Alex Preddy, was carrying a gun. He was. But last I checked, that is not illegal. That is not grounds for you to get shot in the United States. Second thing you need to know, did he interfere with the ICE agents in their line of duty? Did he pose a threat to these ICE agents that would necessitate them shooting him? And Maple Boy comes in and says, exactly, this is what I saw here. Maple Boy says he never used his gun once. I didn't see him use his gun once. In fact, prior to Alex Preddy getting shot, he did stand in front of the ICE agents because they had thrown a woman to the ground. He never touched his gun. The ICE agent took his gun, and his gun was safely away from him before he got lit up. So effectively, the threat had been neutralized. This guy was on the ground before he got shot. Anyways, I'll just leave that with you guys. Think about it. And this is the same country that some of my friends who are very much pro-America will tell us this is the only country we can make a deal with. They have the best human rights record. They are the only country they're not communist, and so the United States is the only country with the moral fiber that we need to be trading with. We can't trade with China because they're communist. We can't trade with Qatar because they sponsor terrorists. We can't trade with anybody else. The EU is dead. We must trade with the United States. This is the country that they would like us to trade with. You know, a while ago, I made this video, and it seemed I should probably bring it back here. Maple Boy says that is why it is a bad idea to join the USA. That and more. To be fair, I don't think we know how good we have it in Canada right now. I don't think people realize how good we have it in Canada right now. This shit is pretty wild back there in the United States. I'll tell you that much. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. Anyways, I was telling you about. I made this video a while ago where I said that I think that the Second Amendment is a joke. I think the Second Amendment is a joke. This is my opinion. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not pro guns. I'm not pro guns at all, because I think that having the ability to carry guns. I mean, I understand that people like it as a hobby, but the Second Amendment in the United States was not meant to protect your ability to hunt. It wasn't meant to protect your hobby. The Second Amendment was meant for citizens to be able to resist an authoritarian regime, right? And I said when I made this video a while ago, maybe I'll link it. I'll put it somewhere so you guys can find it. But if you want to find that video, just search on YouTube. Search. The title of that video is "The Second Amendment is a Joke." That was what I named it. And people came after me when I made this video, especially Americans. That video got the most dislikes, probably one of the most dislikes I've ever gotten on a video. I said the Second Amendment is a joke, and I'll tell you why. But you can go watch that video so you can get more details on this. I told people that it gives people this false sense of security. It gives you this false sense of security where you go, okay, if the government ever got the government ever got authoritarian, you think that you can interfere, but really you can't. You're gunned. You're outgunned. Okay, so Fox Club says, "I'm for whatever is best for us. I don't care who we trade with. We need to make the cost of living go down." Exactly. I agree with that. Fox Club. We need to make the cost of living go down. And I think that should be paramount. Creating jobs. And this is where I am going to properly lose my shit at the... this is where I'm going to properly lose my shit at McCartney and his administration. This is where I'm going to critique them heavily over the next 6 months. They have to deliver on jobs and on these projects that they're talking about, and they have to deliver on affordability for Canadians. If they do not deliver on this, I will lose my shit. I will be on them every single day if they don't deliver on those. That is my only thing. And again, to be fair, I care who we trade with. I would like us not to go trade with North Korea, folks. Love. I would like for us not to go trade with Russia at this point in time. For all the things that Russia is up to. I would like us to avoid trading with that kind of administration, But you know what? In terms of going around to places like Qatar, to Saudi Arabia, to China, go nuts. I'm fine with that. So Braveheart says, you remember that video? Yeah. And and you guys can go watch it. I said at the time, the Second Amendment is a joke. And this is a perfect example of that. This person clearly has, or possibly, I shouldn't say clearly, possibly has a license to carry, was carrying their gun, posed no threat, but that gun became the reason why, or the justification for these ICE agents to shoot them. That was one of the reasons I gave that video. Anyways, I'll leave that there. We only have 10 minutes to go. So, this week, Parliament returns. And on the 29th, Pierre Poilievre has his leadership review. He's got his leadership review coming. As I told you guys, I think there will be a floor crossing coming. There is a floor crossing coming soon. There will be a floor crossing after Pierre Poilievre's leadership review. That is what I think will happen. The other thing I've noticed recently is that McCartney has been kind of posturing in a way that would suggest that he might call an election. Now, I said that there won't be an election this year. So that seems like a weird kind of posture. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that statement that the speech that McCartney made when he came back from his trips the other day, it sounded very much like a campaign speech. And recently, he has been talking in ways that would suggest that we're getting ready towards an election call. Now, I've said I don't think he calls an election this year, but maybe I'm wrong on this. That is what he seems to be signaling that he might call an election. Now, I don't want an election right now. Actually. So Braveheart said, Maple Boy says improvements take time and it's not going to improve overnight. Well, he's been at it a year now. It's no longer overnight, my guy. I want to see results, okay? I want to see results. I want to see job growth. I want to see them I want to see them actually start to deliver, improve very significantly the standard of living for people in this country. That is what I want to see. That is, if I was to meet with McCartney today, that is my only message to him. Do better for Canadians today. Okay? Give us something. Okay. Libby says sucks to be in Minnesota right now. Fox Club says I think Carney would win if he did. Well, he would win, but here's the problem, and here's why I said I don't think he should call an election. I don't think he should call an election because here's the thing: if he calls an election today, is there a chance will McCartney improve his position? Because the reason to call an election is that McCartney wants a majority, right? He is now 2 seats away because Christian Freeland resigned, but realistically, once they get back that safe seat, which is Christian Freeland's riding is pretty safe, liberal. If every seat remains as it is right now, they're just 1 seat away from a majority. I think a floor crossing could easily give them that. So going back to the Canadian people and saying, well, we want a majority at this particular point, there's still, I think it is too risky. I think there is a high chance that McCartney is probably going to come back with a minority again. And you're right to say that he will win. I expect he will win. But will he win a majority? I'm not sure at this point that he will. And so, in that sense, I would think calling an election now is just going to irritate Canadians, in my opinion. It's just going to irritate people. I don't know as of this moment that McCartney wins the majority if he calls an election. And I think it's risky. He could find himself even further away from a majority. Right now, he only needs Elizabeth May to vote yes. And we know there are ways to convince Elizabeth May. So I don't think the risk is worth it for McCartney. That is why I said, from my point of perspective, that he shouldn't call an election right now. But it seems the posture is that he will, which, as I said, would be very stupid from the perspective of his strategy team. It would not make any sense to me. Maple Boy says Pierre is in campaign speech 24/7. Yes, he is. that is definitely a big trait of Pierre Poilievre. He's almost always in campaign mode. Okay, so Libby says McCartney is posturing. The speech is very election and very Canada face your new reality. Fox Club says Carney's government feels different than Trudeau. It does. But I think I'm glad you see it, because I feel like not many people recognize that we're not in the same place as we were under Justin Trudeau, for sure. McCartney is taking this country in hopefully a different favorable direction. Okay, so Maple Boy says improvements will take more than a year. It is a long-term process. Okay, but here's what I want to see, right? I want to see those nation building projects start to create jobs. I want to see improvement in in housing costs for people, those kinds of things. Yes, it takes longer than a year to get you to the utopia that you want to be, but at the same time, I want to see slowly start to see results. I mean, to be fair, I would like to see results quickly, but even seeing results slowly, I think I could live with that. When I start to see the signs that we are, to be fair, there are signs that we're going in the right direction, but I want to see more. Let's just leave it at that. Fox Club says, who would Carney be running against? For now, I think it looks like it will be Pierre Poilievre again, which I think is very, very sad for the conservatives, because I think they would do better with maybe a leader like one of the Mulrooney's. I want to say I think Mark Mulrooney would be a better candidate than Pierre Poilievre today. I think they would do better with somebody of that ilk. But it looks like, unfortunately for the conservatives, it looks like it will be Pierre Poilievre. Luby says we need economic growth and stability more than election right now. 100%. 100%. Okay, and he says he needs to put Doug Ford in his place and also keep the promise he was voted on rather than election right now. Yes. Yes. So McCartney does need to rein in Doug Ford. Doug Ford is on. I spoke about this. Maybe you were not here, Libby's, when I spoke about this. Doug Ford is on a destructive tear right now. Doug Ford seems like this kind of guy where when he doesn't get what he wants and he doesn't get the attention or whatever, he's the kind of guy that seems to just throw his toys out the pram and cause as much damage. He feels like the best way for him to get his way is to cause as much damage to others as possible. That is my interpretation of the way he's acted this week. Doug Ford has been an absolute disgrace this week. He has been a disgrace this week, right? And some of the things that he has come out with this week, talking about people should boycott the Chinese EVs, even like fanning the flames on conspiracies like, oh, these cars are going to spy on you, even knowing that your iPhones probably do this all the time and they're made in China, but they're not the ones that own the operating system. Obviously, the iPhone is an American company. But talking about all willfully promoting things just because he wants to further a certain agenda, while Canoe having to do like some form of crisis management on Crown Royal because he decided to blow up Crown Royal, not realizing that Crown Royal still has production in Manitoba. It's that kind of destructive behavior. Now, I didn't mind Doug Ford and his antics when it was directed at the United States, but he does need to be reined in for sure. Someone needs to get a hold of Doug Ford and tell him. I mean, the man has been an absolute disgrace this week. Absolutely disgraceful. So yeah, that's what I'll say on Doug Ford. Foxtop says if Poilievre loses the leadership, what's next for him? I think Poilievre is going to go the same way as Andrew Scheer, and it's going to go the same way as Andrew Scheer. He will continue as the politician that he has been, right? Because what else? As you're going to make me draw on what Maple Boy says, he's a career politician, right? Now, there is of course a draw if you're a career politician, in similar to the way Justin Trudeau was a career politician, but you finished your career as a prime minister. Then you get organizations like the World Economic Forum calling you up, because most people don't realize Justin Trudeau was actually at the World Economic Forum and he spoke about soft power or something like that. Flew completely under the radar. Nobody knew he was there, but he got called, right? So those are some of the, you can, as a person who where if you are able to have like a crescendo where if you're a career politician, your career gets to the point where you actually become prime minister, there is a career after that where you can make speeches and say all sorts of things and reminisce on your time in government and all those kinds of things. Pierre Poilievre does not have that, right? He's a career politician, so I expect him to just go back to parliament being just another MP if he loses the leadership review. That said, I don't think he loses the leadership review. I think if the conservatives are still under the delusion that it has to be Poilievre, that nobody's going to bring them this close ever. I think, as I've told you guys many times, that the Poilievre stock has hit the point where it's now diminishing returns with Pierre Poilievre. But I don't think my conservative friends are ready for that discussion yet. Okay? I'm just going to leave it there. Libby says PP has been quiet these days. He actually hasn't. It's just because there are other things that are just like, that are grabbing the headlines these days. Like, for example, the Trump will always dominate the headlines. And McCartney has done some things this week that have dominated the headlines equally. So that is why it seems like Pierre Poilievre has been quiet. If you're like me and you pay attention to the news, you actually Pierre Poilievre made a whole video kind of. He was trying to. He made his own version of trying to compete with McCartney's World Economic Forum speech. He had this whole speech where he was like, it was a nice ambience. To be fair, it was a great speech if you're buying what he's selling. And you guys can watch that video on YouTube. But he made a good speech about where's the bacon and all those things. And that was his whole thing. Libby says Doug Ford's destructiveness. I see that, Libby. It is 5 p.m. You know what? I should make you the timekeeper of the chat. I feel like every time you're always the one telling me it's 5 p.m. I know it's 5 p.m. Okay, but as sometimes I like to respond to you guys' comments. It's fine. It doesn't have to be so rigid. Okay, it's okay. It's okay. Okay, so Libby says the forced destructiveness is a product of every province for itself and a divided Canada. Until Canada is one, this selfish stupidity will continue. Well, I hope that McCartney is able to, that's one of the issues I think with the way Canada has operated for decades now. We operate as they always say, 13 provinces, and instead of one. We don't operate effectively as a country sometimes. That is a fundamental symptom of the way this country is run. Maybe says, speaking of Trudeau, that guy has a rich career. He's a prime example of job hopping absolutely pays. What do you mean job hopping? Justin Trudeau did not hop any job. What do you mean? He was a career. He was a politician for what are you talking about? What are you talking about? He went from drama teacher to I don't know what did Justin Trudeau do before he became prime minister? He was a teacher, and then became leader, or came into politics, became an MP, became leader of the Liberal Party, and then became prime minister. What do you mean job hopping? He had the same job for 10 years. What are you talking about? Anyways, it's been Uncle Cool, why would you do this to me? You come in at 5 p.m. The show starts at 4, my guy. You should have been here all this time. I know you're very much you seem to be of a conservative persuasion. I would love your perspective on some of the things we talked about today, my guy. Anyway, Sankanku says, if there is no love, divorce. Saskatchewan and BC will follow next. Yes. I was waiting for it. I thought you might say something like that. I mean, why would you say that? Saskatchewan Canada just made a deal that is meant predominantly for Saskatchewan. What do you mean if there's no love? What do you mean if there's no love? Actually, I don't think BC has any reason to complain about Confederation. I don't think BC has any reason to complain about Confederation. They can complain maybe about what's it called, equalization payments. But beyond that, I think BC, especially if you look at the list of the nation building projects that Canada got, that McCartney presented, I think like 2 or 3 of those, probably even more, are in BC. So BC continues to receive a decent deal. I mean, compared to some other provinces, BC is receiving a decent deal in Confederation. So I don't know if they'll be in support of separation, Tankanku. And Saskatchewan right now, I don't know if you guys have seen, but Scott Moore is firmly on the Carney train. I never thought I'd see this, but Scott Moe, Premier of Saskatchewan, of course, has been one of McCartney's greatest defenders this week. So put that in your pipe and smoke it, Tankanku. So as I said, that idea of separation for Saskatchewan and BC just flew away. Fox Stuff says QDM is a comedian and a YouTuber. Who's QDM? I don't know who that is, actually. I don't know who that is. I know I might look it up and realize, oh, it's that guy, but I don't know who QDM is. Anyways, it is 5 p.m. I'll honor what Libiza said here. I want to roll the credits. If you guys are not live with me, some of you that are coming in late or watch this video later, if you're not live, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and leave some comments about some of the things we've discussed today. Okay, I'll roll the credits. Fox Club, thank you for your comment. Uncle Q, you came in late, my guy. Next time coming at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. That is when the show starts. Okay. And you guys go watch the video, as I said. And see if you agree with my reasons for saying that the Second Amendment is a joke. Libis, thank you for your comments today. Fox Club, yes, thank you for your comments. Who else was there? Maple Boy, yes, you were here as well. Maple Boy, thank you for your comments. Yeah, I think that's everybody. We didn't have a big house today. Sometimes I don't know what I said last week, but I drew a lot of. There were so many comments after the video was live on the live show last week. I was quite surprised. But it's what it is. Okay, so Foxtrot says QDM talks politics. I'll have to look him up. I don't know the guy. Fox Club, have a great week, Fox Club. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great week. It's gonna be there's some fun things happening this week. They're gonna be the House is sitting, of course, and the leadership review. If something happens, if anything happens, like I don't know, Polio doesn't win the leadership review, I'll be live with you guys right away. No, not right away because I'll be at work, but once I get back from work, I'll try and be live with you guys if something happens. I see you guys. I see you guys next week. Take care. Bye.